obviously, one important thing when His Majesty was in Bath, I think, is when he also wrote the first volume of his autobiography.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, which many people, especially here in Ethiopia, in my experience, is kind of news to a lot of people that His Majesty ever wrote a book, because we know in Mengistu's time these things were banned, and I even have one original Amharic copy here.
You do? Oh, that's great.
And it was very hard to find.
I'm sure.
I did find it. You can find them.
Well done.
Volume 1 and Volume 2. Could you tell us a little bit about what you found out about during your research?
Yes, well, he wrote Volume 1 in while he was in Bath. I mean, that's what a lot of actually refugees and exiles do, partly to a cathartic thing to try and understand what has happened, and of course, sometimes just to fill the time, because suddenly all your duties have been ripped away from you. So it's a very common thing for exiles to write things. He did write it. Some of it was a collection of speeches and contributions from some of his ministers. There were some crucial lines in it, like life here at Bath was very hard. But it wasn't published until many years later, so it wasn't published at the time in the 1930s.
Okay. And I've heard rumours there may be a third part. I don't know if you've heard any.
Well, there's always rumours and there's always secrets. When I went around the Jubilee Palace, for years I wanted to go around there, because there's rumours, or among historians, that there's a collection of government papers and maybe photographs of his time in Bath, of the government, not just, we know from local newspaper sources in Bath and other eyewitness accounts, some of what the Emperor did and where he went, but not much is sort of filtered through about letters and documents. And he spent a lot of time writing to people across the world, America. He had a correspondence, I think, with a Swedish pastor, which has been published, but there are many, many more. And we're only on the verge now, and that's one of the exciting things, I think, what's happening now, hopefully in Ethiopia, that historians are going to be given more of a free rein, and more can be discovered. And it's a proud history of Ethiopia, all the history of their kings and emperors, of which Haile Selassie is one. And let's see what emerges. I'm sure we'll find out more.
For real. Like I say, we're here in Addis Ababa. We've been reasoning with author and writer Keith Bowers from England, reasoning about the book.
It's a lesson for all of us that we all go through tough times when we think that dawn is never going to come. But really that's what it's about, the fact that dawn did arise, maybe by unexpected ways. We never quite know when we're in the thick of something what's going to happen to us. But when we look back, we can see that there's patterns and that we can understand. So that's what I've been attempting to do in this book, to bring this story to life. And also look at the impact it had on him, maybe when he came back, because that's obviously, you can't spend 4 or 5 years away from your country and then just forget it overnight. So I think the experience came with it, was part of his identity. And it sort of would go into some of that as well. So it's multifaceted, and I hope it's an entertaining read as well. It's not all boring politics and religion and whatever, but real life there. And to me, one of the abiding memories of the Emperor loved children. We went to the Jubilee Palace, let's say this week. His great-granddaughter told me, oh look, we went into the hall. She said, here we used to play hide and seek with the Emperor.
Okay.
So imagine all the heads of state we know, or all the prime ministers around the world, which one of those would play hide and seek with their grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and which wouldn't. And I think that will tell you a lot about the mark of a human being.
Give thanks for the words, give thanks for the work. There's a lot we could talk about. I'm sure we'll meet on another occasion, whether it be in England, whether it be on another trip to Ethiopia. One key thing that I did want to mention just briefly, there's these rumors or stories of while His Majesty was there, being offered bribes from various governments, maybe the Italian, to forget the cause of Ethiopia to just, live, and he was even offered exile in luxury. So for those that say today His Majesty did not care for the people, or he was this or he was that, for me this is a key example of the fact that His Majesty really gave everything for Ethiopia, and especially at that time, as you say, he was there suffering by himself, and yeah.
He was offered bribes by the Italian government.
Yeah.
Various approaches were made. I think one proposal was that he could keep part of Ethiopia and the rest would go. Some of his advisors in Bab and some of the community that were in Jerusalem would come with him and were left there. They pushed very hard to make a deal because they thought it's the classic argument, is half a sausage better than no sausage? And that's what the situation they were in. So I think once or twice it was a very close call, because sometimes half a sausage is better than no sausage. So I go into some of that, and I've tried to source all my information. You see an extensive reading this and a source material where it's come from, and I try to double check as much as I can. Of course, no one writes 100,000 words and they're all perfect, and there's no, sometimes it's hard to work out what the truth is because you get 3 or 4 contradictory explanations, and sometimes it's very hard to come to a decision what is the right one. But certainly, the Italians were trying everything. They were sending the Secret Service, they were offering bribes, they were slaughtering Ethiopians on their own field. And in the end, he stood firm. But it may have been on one or two occasions quite a close run thing.
Yeah, I was going to quickly say, like you mentioned, we know a lot of the history of His Majesty now has been hidden, and like you say, the truth is coming to light. For example, this book, one of those artifacts to bring out the information. We have to know where we're coming from to know what is in the future, etc. Yeah, what can people get from this book and from really studying the real history of His Majesty's experiences and works?
Well, we're blind if we don't study history and learn from it. So as a general rule, it's very important to understand the history of your country, the world, your family, whatever. So I encourage people to, this is just the start, and I hope it sparks off an interest that people will go on to research more and find out more things and come to their own decisions about what may be right and what may be not. So that's the challenge, I think, that as big things in history becomes more popular here, if that's the right word, and I think that it is. We've seen Unity Park and we've seen Jubilee Palace and various other things. I understand now there's going to be an Adwa museum, which I saw today, which is fantastic. What a great idea. So it's very important to keep on studying, because if we slam the door, then trouble comes.
Yeah, for real. Once again, before I ask any more questions, give thanks for the time. You have a few more days in Ethiopia. We're in the holiday season, it's Timket. Do you have any plans for Timket?
Yeah, I've seen Timket quite a few times. I love it. I love all the procession, the dancing, the costume, the tabots. Hopefully we're going to go up to Jam Meadow, I think either in the afternoon or the following morning, not quite sure. It's quite hard to plan Timket because the city grinds to a halt and people are never totally certain what time it's starting or what time it's finishing. But it's a very exciting time. We don't really have that in the UK. We have 12th night, but it doesn't mean anything. We don't have this Epiphany, John the Baptist baptism sort of motif. We've just remarking that we've had actually 4 weeks of Christmas season. We had the build-up to Christmas in the UK, which, as you know, is 2 weeks ahead of this, and we're still sort of in holiday Christmas season. So we're having a ball. We've had a month of celebration and Christmas trees, and we're here. I think it will be a special occasion, and looking forward to it.
Give thanks. Give thanks for the work. Is there another work in the works at the moment.
Maybe that's a secret and a rumour, and we'll have to wait and see.
We'll have to wait and see. So we're here with Brother Keith Bowers. Go and check out the book Imperial Exile, do your research, there's plenty of things to find out, especially about His Majesty's time in England. And yeah, I should ask, since we're talking about how important it is for Ethiopia and the new generation, I should ask our brother Enoch, who's with us, if he has any questions.
Sure?
Yes, I might have one.
Yeah.
I heard the story of when His Majesty was refused to take a book from a bookstore because he didn't have, he couldn't afford it, you get me? Like at that time?
Yes, there are a few stories in Bath itself that he didn't have ready cash. But generally I don't think it was a problem. People extended credit to the royal family and knew that it would sort of emerge. So I don't think it was an unpleasant episode. I don't recall that one thing that he was refused a book. But it's certainly true that the electricity bill may have to be delayed or whatever it was because there was no ready cash or people couldn't be paid who were working there.
Give thanks.
Give thanks. Enjoy the rest of the time. We hope to reason again soon.
Thank you very much. All the rest of that money goes to Fairfield House. None comes to me now. I've broken in on the book, so I'm happy. So that means if you buy a book in Fairfield, 2/3 of that money is going directly to the Emperor's house.
Yeah.
So it's a win-win. Get a great book and a great read, and you're supporting Pauline and William and what they're doing.
We know that His Majesty at some sad time. We have on our tour that we've done on Sunday, there's a pianola in Fairfield House. So it was given away. His Majesty was so kind, he gave away everything, but the family gave it back. So it was restored for our freedom in the city by Dr. Sean Sobers. And we played that pianola. When we played, we just tell people that although it was a house that was sad, it was also a house of life, and it was a house His Majesty would have been sitting here with his family. So we play that every on Sunday tours, and that just brings a smile to people's face. So we imagine that His Majesty would have been smiling. As you said, the table tennis, there would have been his prayers, there would be the outings that he did within Bath as well as outside the Bath. And Ras Benji, our historian, he finds so much information. We have in our kitchen just a picture of His Majesty who'd gone on a camping trip with some young people, and he's standing there with them. So there's always something. So it was sad, but at the same time he had to make it live, and he had to be able to show his children not the downside but the upside as well. So, and that is what is remembered in that.
Imperial Voice Radio, the music and the message.